Governor Greg Abbott has been joining us live just about every Friday, and today we want to talk about just the money aspect of COVID-19 because that's on the minds of many. And we thank you once again, Governor, for being with us. We know these are busy times. We appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you all.
All right, let's dive into unemployment first, Governor. In 2 months, about 2 million jobless claims have been filed in Texas. And going forward, of course, we know that we may see additional waves of virus and possibly additional closures because of that. Wanted to ask you, do you think that the existing staffing of the state's unemployment system and the amount and the duration of the state benefits is adequate? And if not, what changes would you make?
Several things. First, when you look at the incredible number of people who filed for unemployment benefit claims to begin with, it was far more than what the Texas Workforce Commission had ever dealt with before. After they were able to assess how many claims are coming in, they added hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of additional staffers who were hired. And then in addition to that, both the Texas House and the Texas Senate offered up volunteers to assist them. And through that process, they have been catching up. Understand this, as we speak right now, they've paid out more than $5.6 billion in unemployment benefits claims. Another important fact, and that is one unemployment claim is one too many. That said, Texas ranks the lowest of all the large states in the United States for unemployment claims. The reality is this, and that is one thing about Texans is they're not looking for a handout. They want to get back to work. And that's what we're working on right now as we prepare for the announcement on Monday, where we seek to talk about maybe opening up even more job opportunities so that people will be able to get back to work and get off of the unemployment benefit lines.
Yeah, we're going to get into that here in just a second, Governor. In the meantime, speaking about unemployment, there have been headlines that when you do expand business capacity to 50% for the whole state, which could, of course, come as early as next week, that it might trigger the Texas Workforce Commission to go ahead and require that people who are getting unemployment benefits right now to start looking for new jobs. That requirement, of course, has been waived during the pandemic so far. Will it be time to reinstate that, do you think, when we get to that 50% threshold?
You know, we're working with them, and it just depends on what the level will be. And so you'll know that level has not yet been determined, and we continue to work with doctors over the course of the weekend. And so it's premature to guess what the Texas Workforce Commission will do, with this exception. You have seen the Texas Workforce Commission work collaboratively with the workers across the state, understanding the situation they are in, understanding also about the inability of some of them being able to apply for jobs because there are more unemployed people than there will be jobs available right now. As a result, I would anticipate the Texas Workforce Commission remaining flexible in their standards.
Now, we asked on social media, all of our followers there, Governor, if they could ask you one question, what would it be? We've heard from hundreds of viewers. We want to thank everybody who submitted. Here's what Chrissy Brown asked. When will daycare be available for parents who are non-essential workers? We know that a lot of people have been asking about that, Governor.
Sure. First, I like that you get those questions. I want to keep coming back every week and get your questions from your viewers like that. And so this is an incredibly important question, and we've devoted a lot of time every single day, actually, since the last time I made an announcement, to focus on this because we know that our workforce is not going to be able to go back in full force until daycare is going to be provided. So this is a strategy. We spend a lot of time with the daycare centers, finding the right way they can open up while diminishing or reducing the spread of COVID-19, while also getting our 4 doctors comfortable with those strategies. I'm feeling pretty good about it, but there's still more work to be done before an announcement can be made.
And as you said, some of those discussions go through the weekend, so we'll look for more next week, Governor. One more question for you here before we let you go, and you are welcome to come back every week and get those viewer questions as well. Property owners are getting their appraisals now in Dallas. They're just going out today, which for many, those appraisals are going up a lot. Well, now we're just going to wait to see what the tax rates are going to look like. Last session, of course, a cap was placed on how much those rates are allowed to go up each year. The Texas Municipal League says that your recent disaster declaration for COVID-19 essentially removes that cap and allows taxing authorities to raise rates much higher. We know that a lot of those authorities are in need of the money right now. Are you concerned about strapped property owners essentially paying the COVID-19 bill, and what can you do to prevent that?
First, I don't construe the law the same way that the Municipal League just said. I don't, and so for your viewers to know, I think I disagree with that. I think the Texas Attorney General disagrees with that legal interpretation. So know this, and that is your property taxes are not determined by the valuation of your home. They're determined by the taxing authority. So what we are urging taxing authorities to do is to not raise rates, but to cut property tax rates to lessen the burden on property owners in Texas.
All right, we will stay tuned for the next couple of months and see if that actually comes true, or if we end up having some kind of battle that goes on here in the state of Texas. Governor, thank you for taking the time. And once again, you have a standing invitation to keep doing this with us every Friday.
We'll be back.
All right, thanks, Governor.